Chapter 9. On the morning after returning from the beachside resort where so many terrible affairs took place, I woke with a jolt, covered in a cold sweat from vivid nightmares about that fake world I had experienced, a place where time had no effect and an instant granted me months of horror that I could not forget. It is hard to say whether I was glad to be home or not, as the 3 visitors had now all but made this place their home as well, and though each day at the resort had brought about many trying ordeals, I knew my own room would not bring me any peace. My mother did not return with us, instead leaving immediately to pursue her supposed part-time work, and as such, the oppressive aura of the 3 others weighed on me greatly that first night, no doubt the first of them poisoning my dreams with the memories of that large tree in Grassy Hill. The day proceeded along much like many others since the 3 beings came to this planet. They took to the classroom as normal members of the student body quite well, or at least well enough not to arouse the suspicion of our classmates, no matter how much they played about, gossiping with students about mundane things, or discussing the native entertainment that they always seemed so obsessed over. We left the school together with the intent to go shopping for daily necessities for the young-looking boy who seemed to have made my home his as well, and so we were led by the fake silver-haired girl to the local shops. As usual, I could detect the evil it intended in such trivial acts. No doubt the thing had already hatched some plan to engage in its usual approaches, abuse the fiery elemental that was always a few steps behind it, or perhaps just acquire more forms of media to consume for purposes I was afraid to imagine. It was as we were returning from shopping that the beginning of another terrible event took place. As we neared my home, I recognized a girl named Kuritama from a distance, whom I have mentioned a number of times before as the classmate that the silver-haired being had befriended and had invited to that beach resort, an inquisitive girl who took to spending the day with notepad and pen in hand and recording both interesting stories and popular chatter alike. As we approached her, she called back out to us, and an air of unfamiliarity was immediately met with the proclamation that it was something else, something I had heard of only in whispers and visions since the arrival of these things. And as it named its origin, it produced a projectile-like apparatus with the shape of a pistol and pointed it at our group, colored globes scattering in the air around it before a bright white light barely drowned out its insistence on the danger Earth was in. I awoke later in my room, confused over how I had gotten there and the sudden encounter in front of the house. It plainly named itself as part of the great race of Yith, a creature I had seen in visions not too long ago when I made contact with the crawling chaos. I had seen them, 10-foot-tall conical creatures with 4 tentacles that held organs, such as 2 claws that the things used for communication via snapping and clicking, trumpet-like features, and a yellow sphere that housed a number of eyes. These creatures lived on Earth years before us, and were masters of time, for the things had developed a method by which to project themselves forward or backwards in time by exchanging minds with hers in the past or future. And by this means they took to recording history on an amazing scale. And in those brief visions I was shown Pina Coladas, and the great library that held their archives. As I tried to recall the pieces from my visions, I was shaken from my reverie by a nagging unfamiliar feeling I had since I awoke, and the sudden appearance of myself right in front of me. Confused as I was sure I was staring at my own self in my room at that time. And the other me spoke in my voice, asking if I was awake, and my reply came from a voice that wasn't mine. With a clumsy, awkward movement I looked at my own hands, but surely these weren't my hands, and reaching forward to touch the face which I could only call mine meant touching someone else. The other me produced a mirror, and my gaze into it revealed the deep green eyes and long silver hair of the form of the girl that the pharaoh favored. With a simple explanation from the other me, the terrible realization came quickly. As unbelievable as it may be, certainly nothing was impossible for these cursed creatures that I seemed to be cursed to attract. I could not deny that I was inside the body of Nyarlathotep, while its mind was inside my own. A loud piercing wail came from my room that day, but the scream of the silver-haired thing that met my ears only served to terrify me even more. After calming down, we were joined by now 3 more extraterrestrials, the newest among them introduced to me with a different name than I had always placed to that form. It was indeed the body of my classmate, but inside that body was the mind of something else. A being of the great race that existed on this planet hundreds of millions of years ago, projecting itself to this time period and using my classmate as a host. It said it came to take the body of the outer god, to use its power to save the planet. According to its explanation, the galactic obsession with our culture also spread to the time-traveling denizens of the past. and due to the calamity in the dreamlands that I had been told of some time ago, a large number of extremists among the great race were preparing to transplant themselves across humanity to satisfy their desire for it. It ambushed us outside my home with this purpose in mind, but misused the machine and accidentally swapped the minds of myself and its target. The apparatus would take some time to recharge, and though it seemed intent with seeking assistance in a more normal way, there was no way to return us to our normal bodies until the next day. As it delivered this explanation, I am sure I could see the tentacle-like appendages protruding from the body of the girl I was familiar with. Whether it was an effect of the visions, or perhaps the sight afforded to me by the eyes of something not human, I cannot say. I had no doubt, however, in the validity of its story after these sights, and especially due to that uneasy, unfamiliar aura that came from it. I felt worse, of course, for the true mind of Kiri-tama. Though she had interacted with these things a number of times, even joining us on that trip to the resort, I doubted she ever suspected the true nature of these things. Whether she was merely ignorant, had a high tolerance for things unnatural, or maybe had her curiosity pacified by one of the aliens, she would only hesitantly whisper to me in secret of minor observations of unnaturalness in the air. Now, however, she was trapped in a monolithic city of stone, oddly shaped square-cut basalt stones dominating the masonry, cyclopean terrors dominating over subterranean mazes filled with those conical-shaped tentacled creatures, the same place I had seen in my visions before. As I was stuck in the body of something else, so too was she, though as I was acquainted with this body in some way, and familiar with its human shape, she was millions of years in the past, duly under inquisition from the same frightening creatures over her knowledge of our time period. Great God! I know all too well the sudden realization of the existence of things we were not meant to know, but like this I could only wish for her safety and sanity. The thing inside Kiri-tama departed, and I was left to endure the night in something else's body. I had adapted to moving it fairly quickly, likely because it was in the form of a human. Should I stop and stare at the body for too long, however, a sickening feeling would take over, a harsh whisper in my ears that seemed to come from the body itself. I did not have much opportunity to brood over it, however, as in this body I was now faced with the challenge of fending off the living flame, whose obsession with this body did not seem to wane even though it was now occupied by a different mind. Fending it off was not unlike my usual experiences with the outer god, but this thing seemed far more forceful, far less delicate than I was usually treated. Even worse, I had to look out for my own body as well. And soon after I came to that realization, my body walked into the room with an unnatural shine, an overly pleasant aura that made me shudder. Just what had that thing done with my body? I hesitate to record the time I spent in that body, as they are things experienced in a vessel I cannot call my own, and even now I cannot confirm what was real and what was not. As I mentioned, the body took the form of a human's, but I could tell that it was clearly something other. As I experienced with the being of the great race, I think I experienced things I normally would not have experienced. For instance, if I stared too long at the red-haired thing, I could see the massive, burning star-like creature clearly, not unlike fleeting visions had revealed to me before. And the yellow boy's face, normally bright and cheery, was now constantly covered in a yellow cloak, even though I had never seen one before. The body also seemed to reach out to my mind from time to time, especially if I were alone. And these whispers truly more maddening than anything I had experienced before. As I sat in the bath trying to calm myself down surrounded by my own tentacles, the body whispered to me, over and over again, unintelligible, guttural words that struggled to comprehend. Despite this, I still valued being alone than being with those other things. The visions that were often given to me, though horrifying and frightening, called to a sense of curiosity I could not seem to appease. Would I yet again visit that twilight-filled abyss in this new form? Would contact with this body again give me a glimpse into the ancient civilizations of this world, or to the beings that dreamed at the center of the universe? To know these things took a great toll on my sanity, but to seek understanding of them was simply human nature. I took no surprise to the two aliens and the thing in my body squatting in my room when I retired for the night. It was simple enough, however, to seek the Burning One's assistance using this body, and a quick scheme to enlist his aid forced the two others out of the room. That night was filled with dreams as I had expected, but much unlike others I had experienced before. I was not given glimpses into the young days of this planet and the things that inhabited it, nor did I explore that oddly angled twilight-tinged abyss. Instead I endured the calling of this body again, as if the normal approaches of the fake girl were carried on by the body itself, subtly whispering the same thing over and over to me, those incomprehensible syllables that must be unknown to any human language. And I awoke, struggling to keep myself from repeating the sounds, dragged to school by the thing in my body even though I had intended on skipping classes, though hopeful I would meet the foreign mind in Kiritama's body to inquire on the status of the apparatus that would restore me in my body. Disappointed as I was that the thing was not there, I suddenly found myself in front of the classroom, led there by my own hand. As my fake self shouted committal words in front of my classmates, a voice of my own said words I never wanted to say. End of chapter.